Hello, and welcome to our Business, Finance, and Information Technology Career Pathways Information Session. My name is Mary Beulah, and I am the director of Erie Together, which is a countywide movement largely focused on helping more students become successful adults. As part of my role, I facilitate the Erie County Career Pathways Alliance, which is a group of school districts, employers, workforce developers, and educators, all working together to help students better prepare for future careers. Now, our goal tonight is to help students understand opportunities in the business, finance, and information technology career pathway, which includes business administration, finance and insurance, information technology, and marketing, sales, and service. We've assembled a great team of experts who will touch on what students should do to prepare for jobs in these fields, highlight some of the jobs that exist, and give you the opportunity to learn from their experience. Tonight's session will start with speaker introductions and a presentation on industry insights from Janet Anderson, a local workforce and economic development expert. We will then turn to our panelists with a series of questions we've developed and others submitted by the audience. If you have questions you'd like to pose to any of our panelists, please type them into the chat so we can raise them for you. Please understand that if you're here and you can hear us, your technology is working. And here are some additional things that we want to make sure we do to help ensure tonight's session goes well. First of all, panelists, please make sure your camera is on and your microphone is muted until you're ready to speak, at which time you should unmute yourself. Students and families, your cameras and microphones have been disabled, so if you have something you want to say or want to raise a question, please use the chat function. And then finally, we're recording this session so we can provide the video to school districts afterwards so they can share them with their students. Okay, it's time to get started. Panelists, we want you to tell us your name, your position, a little bit about your background, and what you do now. And I'm going to call on each of you individually, starting with Lauren. Lauren?
Hi there, everybody. I'm Lauren Zizula. I'm a Penn State graduate of class of 2017. I went to Collegiate Academy for high school in Erie. And I recently just moved back to Erie with my fiance. We bought a house just about a year ago. We were living in Chicago for a while. I currently work for a company called Red Ventures. You may have not heard about them, but I'll definitely kind of dive into who they are, what they do. The beauty of remote work brought me to be able to live close to family in Erie while working for a company that's headquartered in Charlotte. I am a technical project manager. So what that means is I'm an IT project manager. I work with software developers as well as business counterparts. So I'm really the bridge between the technology and the business within a team. So looking forward to getting to know some of the other panelists and continuing our conversation.
Thanks, Lauren. Okay, Matthew.
Thanks, Mary. It's great to be with you all tonight. My name is Matthew Cummings, and I lead the PR and Media Relations team at Erie Insurance. And I also teach a graduate course at West Virginia University. At Erie Insurance, my day-to-day consists of handling media inquiries from the 12 states and the District of Columbia where we operate, and also pitching stories about Erie Insurance and our products. I'm the spokesperson for the company and also part of the crisis communications and social media response teams. I spent about 6 years in radio broadcasting before I moved to the PR side, and also worked in marketing communications at nonprofits and led communications for public school systems in Pittsburgh and here in Erie before joining Erie Insurance in a digital marketing role back in 2017. I'm a local guy. I grew up in Erie. I went to McDowell High School, graduated from Edinboro in communications with a focus on broadcasting, and WVU in integrated marketing communications for grad school.
Thanks, Matthew. Jessica. Jessica.
Okay, sorry about that. So other than the other panelists so far, I'm actually from Western New York, go Bills, but I did graduate from Edinboro University back in 2004 and joined the banking community as soon as I graduated. Worked for a couple different banks that led me to Northwest Bank, I am now the Vice President of the Erie region, and I am a branch manager of the Summit Square location. I also do staffing for all 11 branches of our Erie region. We cover everything from consumer to business, lending, banking, investments, everything you can think of. So our main focus is customer service and interactions. My finance degree in Edinburgh really prepared me for this venture, and I am excited to get to meet the other panelists and answer any questions that our viewers may have.
Thanks, Jessica. Ryan, you're muted.
Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Sitter. I grew up in Erie, and my journey took me through Logistics Plus, where I started my career here. I moved over to Deloitte Consulting, and then previous to my current role, I worked at Nike for 5 years in supply chain. I'm currently a consultant in supply chain, and I help my clients who are leaders of retail and manufacturing companies to figure out how to make their supply chains go sort of better, faster, cheaper. Today, supply chain is actually an interesting topic these days based on some of the challenges that are happening around the world. And so it's a pretty challenging and exciting career. And I'm really excited to talk to you tonight a little bit more and to learn more about the rest of the panel participants as well.
Thanks, Ryan. Jen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Poncer. I'm the director of Career Street. Career Street is a program that connects employers with educators so that students can have career exploration experiences. The program was designed in Erie for Erie. It's 8 years old, and happy to be bringing more and more experiences to our Erie County students and beyond. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. And Janet.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janet Anderson. I have worked in quasi-governmental positions, primarily in workforce and economic development, mostly in Western Pennsylvania, although I've had the privilege of working in state government and local government. I graduated from Penn State as well with a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting. I've done master coursework there and also have received several industry recognized credentials. I was fortunate to run for state office and work for former Governor Tom Ridge and former Senator Jane Earl. I'm currently reevaluating my own personal career goals and exploring options, including self-employment. Thanks, Mary, for having me and everyone for joining us tonight.
Thank you. And Janet, we're going to roll right into you. So what I'd like you to do is talk about what you understand based on regional data and your experience. And please share your insights on employment opportunities, employer needs, and skills that employers are really looking for.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. As you will hear, students, throughout the evening, many of us adults have not stayed or participated in positions that matched our studies. Your career is your journey and includes continuous learning about the subject matter and yourself in order to continue to move up a career ladder. And you heard a little bit about that in the introductions. I will speak to 3 areas this evening that you can work on right now while in high school to make that journey easier. First, it is important to do research. There is data that can help you see what jobs are available right here in Erie County. The Pennsylvania Career Link provides labor market information, and you can find this on the web by going to nwpajobconnect.org or the Pennsylvania Career Link at the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry. This data is called the high priority occupations and the in-demand occupations. Both lists will show you the open positions locally or in Pennsylvania, respectively, that provide you with the opportunity to grow your career and obtain family-sustaining wages. The information will also share your entry-level wage or salary for the area, as well as what a wage or salary with experience might look like. And finally, it will share the required training to get into that particular occupation. As the business, finance, and information technology is a broad area, you may find yourself working as a manager, human resource specialist, accountant, auditor, bookkeeper, customer service representative, market research specialist, sales representative, administrative assistant, financial analyst, loan officer, statistical analyst, credit counselor, lawyer, paralegal, software developer, computer network support, computer hardware analyst, and so much more. And you're going to hear about some of those this evening. As you can see, there is pretty much something for everyone. And the really interesting thing about this industry is that you may find yourself doing these types of occupations for other industries like healthcare or manufacturing. This is the area that I focused on when I started my journey in accounting, but then ventured off into the government realm to find a better fit for me and my interests. Depending on what you choose, you may start off making between $30,000 and $50,000 and have the opportunity to move up from there to positions paying well over $100,000. With so much to choose from, you may not even know where to begin and what career to look at. So let's start with the fact that you will spend 25% of your adult life at work. So it's important to know what you like to do so that you can like what you do. The second thing I want to talk about is trying things right now. You're in the perfect place to try things. High school offers many chances for you, including Career Street. Take advantage of those opportunities. Participate in activities at school, things like sports or clubs, or out of school activities like scouts or church. You'll learn teamwork, how to be a great teammate, leadership, working with diverse people. All of these are critical skills that employers are looking for. Or consider taking a part-time job or volunteering to see if the industry you're looking at or the occupation you're looking at is something you might like. Remember, we want to like what we do. Employers are happy to invite you in for job shadowing or questions or tours. Remember to also be flexible with yourself. It is okay not to know at age 16, 17, or 18 exactly what it is you want to do. When I left for college, I thought I wanted to be a tax accountant until I realized what that really meant and the time commitment from Christmas to April. And I was already at that point 3 years into my education. But that knowledge that I gained served me well in all of my other positions with developing budgets, reading and understanding our agency's financial statements, as well as reviewing financial statements like a loan officer for lending to small business. The other thing that I want you to think about is listening to your mentors. So what is a mentor? A mentor is someone who's going to provide you advice based on what they know about you and opportunities that might suit you well. Who are your mentors? And I'm sure most of you are thinking your parents or family. And while this is a great source of mentorship, it is important to also seek mentors outside your family, as they may see your strengths in a more objective way. So for example, your friends' parents or your coaches, or if you took a part-time job, your boss, a guidance counselor or a teacher, your pastor, and sometimes your neighbors can help you find things about yourself and mentor you into a position. They'll help you find those types of occupations that you can explore, which is what you should be doing right now, that will produce success and happiness for you in the long term. Please don't be afraid to get out and explore and learn about yourself. So what is it that employers need? And this is the third thing I want to chat with you about this evening. Work hard and take your school seriously. Employers are looking for those basic skills, math, verbal skills like reading, writing, communication. Digital literacy has become a really big deal recently. So learn as much as you're able to while you're in school about using and communicating with technology. Look at us tonight. We're communicating with you in your home and in your classroom. This would not even have been thought of a short time ago, but right now it's critical to what you're doing. And some of our panelists will, I'm sure, expand on that. Take advantage of your opportunity to learn while you're in school. Do your best. We all have classes we don't like, but do your best in them. Own your work. Recognize that if you didn't do well, it's your work. It wasn't someone else's fault. It's a great way to show initiative and will separate you from others as you're applying for opportunities for employment. If you get the chance, participate in an internship or a co-op. It will force you out of your comfort zone and you will learn about yourself and those things that you really like or dislike. Take advantage of Career Street to meet with employers. Take tours that might be virtual or in person. Ask questions of the experts. Take a virtual interview. Start building your network through Career Street for the future. The more you know about an occupation, the more likely you are to know whether or not you will like it. So what employability skills should you be working on right now? Employers are looking for individuals that have the right attitude, those that show initiative and are willing to learn and try new things, those that are willing to speak out with better ideas through their creative thinking. They know that something might be more effective or efficient and share that. A person with a work ethic, showing up on time every day and continuing to do that week after week without taking long vacations or sick time is someone that they're really looking for. Someone that's honest, willing to own their work, similar to what I just mentioned in school. Someone with integrity. Someone that's flexible, someone that's willing to take on additional responsibility. And sometimes you have a mentor at work that may encourage you to take something on that really isn't in your job description. You will learn so much when you take those opportunities. Employers can and are willing to help train the technical skills, so don't feel like you have to bring it all and come out of high school with everything that you need, or college or post-secondary training. Work with your employers. Some positions will require that education or training, but don't be afraid to accept a lower level position and form a partnership with your employer to help you finish that education. These next couple of things you may ask, why am I bringing them up? Financial literacy. Your school may offer you the opportunity to take a financial literacy course. And why does that matter to your employer? Well, employers want you to be a happy employee that comes to work ready and able to work. If you're worried about paying your bills at home, you may not be that employee that they are looking for. So make sure that you have your house in order so that you are able to really fully engage at work. And a work-life balance. This one is hard sometimes. It's hard to tell your employer no, but learning this is critical so that you maintain your mental and physical health and are at your best when you're at work. I think I'll stop there so that you can learn more from the experts that we have here on the call this evening. They will provide specifics about various positions and the employers that they work for. So with that, Mary, I will hand it back to you unless there are specific questions for me.
Okay, it does not look like we have any specific questions. So Janet, thank you for that. That was really good and really helped set the stage nicely for the other things that we're going to be learning from the panelists tonight. So thank you. So we're going to start now with our panelist questions, and we're going to turn to Lauren first. Lauren, you are an IT professional experienced in Agile software development, okay, I am starting over because there's no such thing as a SCUM framework. All right, so you're experienced in Agile software development, the Scrum framework, and cross-functional project management. What does all of that mean?
That's a great question. My parents still ask me weekly. Let's start with the Agile framework. As a project manager, you are following a framework or a walkthrough or a guide of some sort to take your project from inception or initiation to getting it out the door, having real users use it. You can't just kind of do that ad hoc. So Agile framework was actually adapted from the Lean framework. And you can think of Lean as Ford, the manufacturing line, when they were literally basically creating manufacturing lines. They called it Lean. And so Agile was adopted from Lean. And it's this idea that we act iteratively. So we take in requirements and we deliver them. We assess how do things look, and then we adapt. We work on new requirements and we get those out the door. So you can just think of Agile as an umbrella, and then the Scrum framework is a type of Agile. And so the Scrum framework got the name from rugby scrums, but really has nothing to do with rugby. We work in 2-week sprints, we call them. So the software developers and myself, at the start of a 2-week sprint, we will take in requirements, which we call user stories. The software developers will then go actually hands on the keyboard. They will design and code or build things in the cloud, really whatever their requirement is. And then we will release them to production. So a really great example is we're building a website, right? And the first requirement is to actually get the URL stood up and have like a banner welcoming our customers to our page. So those would be 2 different user stories. 1, let's stand up the website. 2, let's create a banner. And cross-functional project management, really what that means is it's kind of just a more complex way of saying that I work with business folks and also technical folks. So I work with those who are hands on the keyboard, who maybe look at requirements and just generally their mentality is a little bit different than the business world, but I also then work on the business side, and I need to kind of understand both worlds in order to properly communicate back and forth. So as a project manager, you really wear a lot of hats. You have to be a very clear communicator and stay very organized in order to live in both of those worlds. So hopefully that was helpful. But software development is really a beast of its own. It can be very confusing, but in a nutshell, Scrum and Agile is just a way that we do projects.
Okay, thank you. So second question is, what skills and qualities do you have that prepared you well for your professional role?
So some of the main things that I think I'm really good at, and I've been taught by a manager before that it's okay to say, yes, I'm really good at these things. It's okay to kind of toot your own horn a little bit. That shouldn't be something we shy away from. I think I'm a really clear communicator. I'm very organized. I have a very creative spirit. I'm a team player. I do well with conflict resolution and something called servant leadership. Servant leadership is the idea that you are leading a team, but at the same time, you're a servant to the team. So you're not a manager overseeing people, right? You're guiding us to a goal. So it's a fine balance between how do I be that leader, but how do I also serve the team first? All of these qualities, I think, make a great project manager or a scrum master. That's kind of the token name for a project manager if you work in a scrum framework. At Penn State, I majored in cybersecurity, and ironically enough, I haven't had a single job in cybersecurity. I've always been in the IT world, but where I found sort of my niche was in project management and seeing the software development lifecycle. I think it's really interesting. I really like working with the tech side and the business side. So I didn't want to kind of stay pigeonholed into a really technical role when I knew there was more that I wanted to do. So I would say that my kind of like basic classes or rudimentary classes at Penn State helped prepare me for this career because they teach you generally, here's what you need to know just to be an effective communicator. Here's what you need to know to create a roadmap, to assess risks. Here's how you escalate risks. What some people might think as of just theoretical or, not needed. They are very needed. It's incredibly vital to have a good project manager on a team. So that's what I would say. There are a lot of not tactical skills. They really are a lot of emotional, theoretical skills that make you a valued member of your team as a project manager in IT.
Okay, thank you. So here's something that really interested me when I read your bio. So you started your career in a 2-year leadership development program at GE. What was that like? And when and how did you find out about the program? And what made you a good candidate?
I started my career at GE before I even graduated college. So I got an internship after my sophomore year. I was a sophomore with no experience. And I went up to the GE table at the career fair and said, I'm really interested in your company. And I'll be honest, it was because I'm a homebody and I love Erie. And I thought I'm going to work at GE so I can live in Erie. That's what drew me to them. But it was just that initial conversation I had with a recruiter. They could tell that I was interested. They could tell that I was happy to talk to them. I was able to talk to them. I was very personable. One thing led to another. We had a few interviews and I received an internship. And I really never left for the next 5 years or so. I had 2 internships and then worked there for almost 4 years after that. And I cannot recommend enough to young students who are looking for a job in IT to do some type of leadership program or rotational program. Reason for this is that IT is a massive world. And to think that you're going to graduate high school and then college and say, I know exactly what I want to do in technology is really silly. And that's not realistic. You'll probably get into a role where maybe it's not really meant to be. So the rotational program was awesome for me because I got to figure out what I didn't like and I got to figure out what I really did like. I realized security, that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I also realized that I didn't have to be super technical. I didn't need to be a coder in order to be successful in IT. There was a lot of pressure on me. I felt, and I put this pressure on myself, that I had to be really technical. I had to understand software development at a finite level, and that's not the case. You can live in both worlds, like I've talked a lot about business and IT. So it's all led me to today. I'm a technical project manager at Red Ventures. We're a digital marketing company. They're headquartered in Charlotte. And like I said, remote work, the beauty of it is that I get to live at home and see my family. And, in this connected world, we can do our jobs. I work with folks in India and Brazil and all over the US. So I've been really very happy with my career choices and just excited to see how software development and project management continue to evolve in this digital world that we're in.
That's great. Thank you. Now we have a question from the audience. It says, Lauren, did you need any technical qualifications to attain your role? For instance, did you need experience in Lean or Agile or a certain project management software?
It's a good question. I would say my For internships, they're my first role out of college. No, they're expecting you not to know everything. But for my latest role, absolutely. So if you're interested in project management, I'd recommend being Scrum certified or product owner certified. Those look really, really good on a resume, or even if you want to take it up another level, PMP, which is professional project management professional. I haven't attained that yet. It's a hard certification to get, but if you have certs like that on your resume, they're going to show that you're really serious, you know what you're talking about. But no, you take all the core classes in college, right? And you show that you're interested, and you get your foot in the door in an internship, and that's what you need. I would say like 90% of students at IST, that's the college I graduated from Penn State, we had internships and ended up working for the companies we interned for.
Okay. All right, thank you. So I don't see any additional questions from the audience, so we're going to move on to Matthew. Thank you, Lauren. That was very good. Matthew, you're up. First off, you are the manager, PR, and media relations at Erie Insurance, and you also teach integrated marketing communications at West Virginia University. So we get a twofer with you today because you can speak to careers in marketing and you can speak to careers in insurance. So we're going to start with marketing, but then I'm going to move into insurance.
Sounds good. I'll be ready.
All right. So it seems like there are so many different types of marketing careers: PR and media relations, digital marketing, advertising, and communications, just to name a few. What education, skills, and characteristics are essential to become a successful marketing professional? And how do students sort through all those different options when they are considering career choices?
It's a good question, Mary. And honestly, it's really one of the reasons that I fell in love with marketing communications. It's just such a broad field, and it's full of opportunities and diverse opportunities. And that's why I love it. Up top, I think it's worth noting too that many of the marketing jobs of tomorrow, so those that students who are maybe on this call might be wanting to step into a few years from now, probably don't even exist right now as we sit here tonight. So it's really kind of a challenge, but also an exciting thing, I think, about these types of careers. You're probably preparing yourself for job titles and to work with technology and platforms that maybe aren't even invented yet. I often tell my grad students that this field has changed more in the past 10 years than it did in probably the 100 years before that. And that's what's also encouraging, though, is that this marketing industry and the employment is really on pace to continue to grow about 10% over the next 10 years, according to the Bureau for Labor Statistics. So how can you prepare? What are those critical skills? The good news is that even amidst all of this change, they really remain consistent. And it speaks to the question about knowledge, skills, and ability. As far as education, in marketing, I would say a bachelor's degree is usually the baseline. I went on to get a master's because I wanted to teach college, and it definitely gives you an edge, but it's not necessary. And I would say that a bachelor's degree in marketing or communications is what most employers will be looking for. Another thing, and Lauren really hit on this too, and I can't stress this enough in the marketing field, is campus involvement, campus media involvement, internships, externships. Grades are certainly important, as Janet mentioned a few minutes ago, but the biggest indicator of future success in the job for me as an employer are those student activities while in school or out of school. So these are those related projects, the volunteerism, the internships, the externships, those shadow opportunities. That's what really shows me an interest and an ability for that student or that candidate to thrive in this field. And as for some of those other necessary skills, it probably comes as no surprise: writing, public speaking, creativity is key, organizational skills are a must, and relationship building, both electronically through Zoom and Teams and other platforms, and also in person, are certainly important.
Thank you. So you mentioned this when we first started. You've got a really varied background in terms of the types of organizations you worked within. You've been with nonprofits, you've been with school districts, you've been with universities, and now you work for Erie Insurance, which is Erie County's largest employer and a Fortune 500 company, and it operates across 12 states and the District of Columbia. So what are the major differences in working in those different kinds of environments?
So a lot of those skills that I just mentioned, Mary, are the same, right? So regardless of what industry or what sector you're in, you need to know how to write, you need to know how to relate to people, creativity, and all of that. With each new job, there's a learning curve, but I would say the two biggest differences among those roles and those sectors that I've worked in are, one, available resources, and two, being a team of one as opposed to being part of a larger team and specializing. So let's talk about resources first. I came into this field working in nonprofits and in public education. So these are two industries that are often strapped for cash. And so we have to learn how to make something out of nothing oftentimes, and also leverage some limited financial resources. So we pinched pennies, and we were always very careful about every expense, from that $5 a month subscription that you wanted up to a $10,000 or $20,000 contract. So now I work for a company that has annual revenues of $8 billion. And having worked in that way for the first half of my life has really been valuable, even in a well-resourced organization. So no matter where you are, you should always have that same mindset and strive for efficiency and wise use of resources. And yes, even now, I still look at that same $5 a month subscription in the same way. And you really just have to, no matter where you end up working. The other thing that I'll mention real quickly is just doing it all as a team of one versus having a team to learn from, but also needing to stay in your lane. So that was perhaps the biggest adjustment for me when I came to Erie Insurance a few years ago. When I worked in nonprofits and even public education, I was the department. I handled everything. And today I'm part of a team of 16 on the strategic communications side. And before I moved over to strategic communications, I was part of a team of 70 on the marketing side. So while I now have this ability to focus and specialize, I also kind of have to stay in my lane sometimes, which can also be a little bit challenging. But again, you learn from other experts, and you're learning alongside other people, and really you can specialize and be an expert in your respective area. So both arrangements have their advantages, and some of it comes down to personal preference. I will say that I wouldn't have wanted to do it in reverse, going from doing it all to focusing on just one aspect of marketing communications has really helped prepare me well.
Oh, that's great perspective. Now I want to turn to the insurance side.
All right.
So within Erie Insurance, or within the insurance industry in general, what are some of the jobs that are in highest demand, and what level of education is required for those jobs?
So let me say first that if you would have asked me 20 years ago when I was working in radio, or even 10 years ago when I was working in advertising, if I would ever work for a property and casualty insurance company, I would have said you're crazy. But insurance is actually one of the most stable industries around. And also there are so many opportunities at all levels, and many are jobs that you might not typically think of when it comes to insurance, especially at our company. So we don't employ any insurance agents. That's often what students, even my son, for the first few years that I worked there, thought, oh, you're an insurance agent. No, Erie operates through independent agents. So we don't have any insurance agents, but what we do have is more than 6,000 employees who are focused on supporting the work of our agents and our customers. I checked in with our recruiters on this today to kind of verify this number, And right now, today, we have about 400 open positions across our company. And these are opportunities at all levels and really at needing all skill sets. So for example, I'll share a few that are in demand and that we're hiring right now. We're hiring 100 interns right now as part of our Future Focus internship program to work with us next summer. So these are paid internships. They really provide a great opportunity to work in various areas of the company. And I encourage any students who are on the call here to really think about that when you're in college, as we have a high rate of intern to employee conversion, especially in some of the information technology roles. As far as in-demand jobs, we have jobs right now for people with good customer service experience in our customer care and FNOL, which stands for First Notice of Loss areas. So these jobs require some experience with customer service, and they have competitive hourly pay rates, excellent benefits, and growth opportunities. And those jobs typically require a high school diploma or GED with some call center or customer service experience. We also have, and maybe some of you even noticed, a big ad we had in the newspaper this past weekend, some big demand for jobs in the trades. So HVAC, electricians, these also require a high school diploma or equivalent and trade school coursework and a few years of experience as well. On the IT side, those highly skilled technical roles such as software engineers, IT analysts, data and analytics, and even Lauren, IT project managers, if you're ever interested, are certainly some in-demand jobs at Erie Insurance as well. So earning potential for these roles obviously varies based on the role and the experience level. And just one more thing that I want to mention about insurance, and especially Erie Insurance, is that the jobs really come with a high level of stability and mobility. It's not uncommon for folks to retire with like 30 or 40 years of experience or more. And it's also pretty cool and not uncommon to meet maybe a vice president who started their career in a customer service or hourly first notice of loss job. In fact, even in my 4.5 years at Erie, I've had 5 different roles, all within marketing or PR, but different roles of increasing responsibility. So mobility is something that's really unique to our industry.
That was great perspective. Now, we do have a question from the audience for you, Matthew.
Okay.
So here's the question. Was it difficult to make a career change, or did you find that you were easily able to transfer your radio experience to other roles?
Good question. So about that, and it also is a bit of advice. You really have to look ahead and see where the industry is going. For me, I loved broadcasting. I loved radio. I majored in that in college. And when I was graduating, I realized that broadcasting was moving more toward automation. And so I had to transition and learn new skills. And for me, that was also another reason why I needed to go back to school to earn a degree in marketing communications, because I wanted to make that transition to marketing and to PR. And so that skill set really helped me do that. But again, you come back to those core skills, right? Writing, that worked across the board, public speaking, creativity. So there were some transferable skills in there as well. It made that transition a little easier. The transition to insurance, however, was maybe a little bit more difficult and required me to also get some more training in the insurance industry and some certifications there as well.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. And I do not.
Thank you, Mary.
Yep. All right. Very good. So Jessica, we're going to turn to you now.
Okay.
All right. So you graduated college with a degree in finance, but you weren't sure what you wanted to do. So you took a part-time bank teller position. Then you ended up changing positions several times, and you got exposure to lots of different facets of the banking industry. What were some of those other roles that you took on? What do you like most about banking, and why should students consider this career option?
So that's a very loaded question with a lot of different answers. I was pretty spoiled with Matt and Lauren's answers because, you know, I agree with their definitions of different facets of position. When I went to college to play softball and to become a marine biologist. And because my brother was an accountant, I majored in finance. When I graduated, my parents said, get a job. So I chose banking and as a part-time teller. And I joined the banking world. And as a part-time teller, I realized I loved what I did. I loved helping customers. I loved being able to answer their questions and deliver their financial dreams and help them. And I knew that I could do more than just be a teller. So that's what led me to work harder and become get another position and move up in the banking industry. So that's what led me. I have had every different position in a bank, and it's because I've always wanted to increase my knowledge and to help the customers that I sit with every day.
So Jessica, what are some of those other kinds of positions that exist within a bank that students might be interested in?
So for me, I started as a part-time teller, and I went to a platform position where I opened new accounts and did small consumer lending. I eventually went to an assistant manager that did investments, and I am now a branch manager, vice president of the Erie region that does pretty much everything. However, in banking, we do everything from marketing to IT. I love my IT department, Lauren. I hope you find that helpful. My IT department helps me on a daily basis. They are wonderful. There's just so many, there's HR positions. I've gotten to know different positions in the human resources department that help us, again, on a daily basis. They help every single employee. And as a manager of a bank, it's important for you to know different functions of each position, so you know how to answer these questions. But there are so many opportunities within the banking world because it's keeps evolving every day with different opportunities.
Okay, so throughout the course of your career, not only did you work several different positions, but you also worked your way up the ladder. What do you think were the qualities that were most important that you possessed that enabled you to be able to do that?
I think the qualities that I possess was motivation. When I was in a certain position, I was ready to move on to the next position. And in order for me to do that, I had to prove myself. It wasn't given to me because I had a college degree or a high school degree or a college degree. I had to prove myself in that particular position. And I think that's important in any job. Wherever you go, it's important if you're in the ground level, get your foot in the door, prove yourself, and work your way up that ladder and give that longevity and that commitment to that company, and it will go so very far.
Okay. Third question for you. Are there things that students should avoid doing in their high school or college years that could disqualify them for being able to work in a bank? And on the flip side, are there personal qualities that can make someone stand out as a stellar job candidate?
So the first question that could possibly disqualify a candidate, and I think I could probably speak for all the panelists tonight, maybe in our day this wasn't such an issue, but social media is a very important part of our world. And I think students in high school and college really need to be aware of what they're posting and putting out there, because it is something that, employers do look at. To me, when I'm looking at an applicant, that is something that I look at. And so it's something just to be aware of. I mean, we didn't have that kind of pressure, I don't think, when we were in college and high school that we had to deal with. So social media is a very, very important part of that job qualification. I also think loyalty and longevity in a job is very important when we're interviewing applicants. No matter, it doesn't matter where they worked. If I'm seeing a long-term history, that shows a lot to me, whether they're interviewing for a teller position or a loan officer or a management position. If they show longevity in a job, that shows a lot to me. And like you said, on the flip side, I guess, if what they could do in their high school and college careers, and I think, Matt mentioned this, is, involvement in community, involvement in internships, showing that they're interested in that field. That gives us a great feeling that they're interested in that particular field, and we'd be happy to talk to them about that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Question from the audience for you. Have you found that you needed to be assertive in order to move up the ranks in your career?
Not necessarily assertive, but confident. I think there's a little bit of a difference in that. As a female in the banking industry, I think it's important to feel confident in your knowledge and what you're doing. Assertive, yes, as management, but I think it's more so on the confidence side, to feel confident in your decisions and what you're trying to either portray to the customer or your employee or a business partner or to the community. So I would say more so on the confidence side than assertive.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. Okay, so Ryan, we're going to move to you now. First question for you. Early in your career, you worked at Logistics Plus right here in Erie, supporting GE operations across the globe. And then you moved on to assume leadership positions within several highly recognizable global companies, including Nike and Columbia Sportswear, to name a couple. What are some of the main business functions that exist within a fully operational company like those? And how do young people consider what roles in business they may even want to pursue?
That's a great question, Mary. I'll talk a little bit about Nike and Columbia and kind of how they're set up and some of the key roles there. So when you kind of think about it, first step is just designing a product. So many of the roles on the product side are either sort of like an art type of a role, so the actual drawing of the products, which is really amazing. And then there's also innovation that goes into it. So there are a lot of people with backgrounds in science, believe it or not, at Nike or Columbia. That can be material science or engineering. And then if you kind of walk through the process, the next step is you actually have to build the product. And that's kind of where supply chain comes in. And so everything from bringing materials in and planning what materials are going to come in that you're going to buy, and then how you set up manufacturing. So at Nike and Columbia, we didn't actually manufacture anything, but we had people who were really skilled at manufacturing that worked with our contract manufacturers. So that background of that skill set of understanding how products are made. And then, supply chain goes kind of soup to nuts all the way through delivery. But a big part of what Nike does is also marketing. And Matthew talked a little bit about this. And so, some of the roles at Nike were pretty cool. I didn't have one of those, but, signing professional athletes as an example. One of the perks was actually walking around campus and being able to see LeBron James or those types of people. But, one of my neighbors back in Portland, his role was actually to be Kevin Durant's guy at Nike. And so he spent a lot of time, working with Kevin Durant to make sure that he was at the right events or that his image was showing up the right way from a brand perspective. And then, obviously, Nike has a couple different channels, so you can buy product through retailers, and there are salespeople that work in those roles. And then we also have a direct business. So Nike actually sells product through its own stores and through .com. So there's a lot of folks involved in technology, just like Lauren, who actually bring Nike.com to life. So there's kind of the full gamut of roles in a corporation, and a lot of people don't maybe think about some of them. So, the way that, the second part of your question was, how do I figure it out? How do I figure out what I want to do? And I think the big thing there is, we heard a couple, one is internships. Super important and a great opportunity for you is to go and actually try it. Go work in an area that you might be interested in. I think my journey was very similar to some of the other panelists. I didn't expect to ever be in supply chain. I kind of got my opportunity from Jim Berlin at Logistics Plus, and it was very much, an internship type of a role to start out. And from there, kind of, I was like, hey, I like this. And so that's the direction that I ended up going. Another thing I would say is don't be shy. There are most people that I know would say, hey, if you have an interest, give me a call. Let's talk. I would love to explain a little bit more or help you understand a little bit more or answer any questions you have about a role. So I think it's really great when students have the courage to reach out and say, hey, I'd really like to learn more about what you do. And you can reach out. That's the benefit of social media. There's downsides of it, but some of the awesome parts of it are you can reach out to people on social media and say, hey, I see that you're doing these things. I'd like to learn more about it. So for me, those are kind of the two big ones. Try it out and talk to people who know and find out more about what they like and maybe don't like about what they do.
That's great, Ryan. Thank you. So second question for you is, you now hold a senior leadership position at Slalom, which is a global management consulting firm that helps businesses across the world transform their operations. Based on your experience, what personal qualities do the most dynamic companies seek in their job candidates and existing employees?
That's a great question. And I think Matthew kind of hit on this when he was talking. I think, what's interesting about the world is it's changing so fast. And so the skills that, you might learn right now are not necessarily the skills you might need 5 or 10 years from now. Actually, one of the most important skills that we look for is the ability to learn things. And Janet actually talked about this in a way. School is really important, not just because of the subject matter you're learning, but because it helps you to learn. It helps you to learn faster. And so that's what's going to get you through in the future, is the ability to learn things quickly, to be curious, and to be able to build those new skill sets fast when you need them. And so I think that's number one. I think there's a lot of intangibles, and we kind of heard that from different other participants. One is authenticity. Stay true to yourself. Be you. I think passion, showing up with really positive energy, is such an important part of being a good team member. And so, Janet mentioned this. Participate in sports and learn about teamwork. That's really critical. And then the final thing I would say is, the combination of creativity and courage. And it kind of goes with authenticity, but speaking up, being bold, putting yourself out there. Those are the kinds of things that we look for in consulting, and definitely look for at Nike as well. So.
That's great, Ryan. So we have a question from the audience for you, and it says, Ryan, can you think of ways, or can you share ways you demonstrated your leadership abilities that got you into the senior role you're in today?
Wow, that's a really good question. Yeah, I think that last thing that I mentioned, being courageous and kind of putting yourself out there. So when I was at Nike, in my first role at Nike, I led operations strategy. And one of the strategies that we worked on was Nike actually won the contracts for the NBA, the jerseys for NBA and all the products back from Adidas. And so my team worked on the NBA strategy. How do we start up a supply chain to bring NBA to life? And, it's kind of cool because, LeBron James, you can imagine he was like Cleveland, Miami, and then he goes to the Lakers. Well, if you have a lot of jerseys from Cleveland and he goes to Miami, you pretty much have worthless stuff. And so what we had to figure out is, how do we get more responsive? How do we get faster so we can actually make changes quickly and not have a lot of inventory that's not worth a lot? So we worked on that strategy, and then there was an opportunity, because somebody left, to actually go lead the implementation, the startup of that. And it's kind of tricky, because sometimes at those moments you're like, hey, I really like what I'm doing right now, and it's kind of comfortable. But putting yourself out there, I had the opportunity to go build a team and start up the MBA supply chain. And taking that risk, I think, was really, from a personal perspective, great. And it also helped me build my leadership skills, because I had a team of 8, but then I went to running a project that had 200 people, and it was scary, but it really built my skill set in terms of being able to lead a large project, being able to influence at a higher level with more senior people. So I think that's a big part of it, is really just having the courage to put yourself out there and really go for it when the moment comes.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's really good. Just point of clarification, Ryan, for people that might not understand the term supply chain, can you just give a real quick, what is a supply chain, so they can put into context everything you just said?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's a question that I get a lot. People wonder, like, what do you actually do? What is supply chain? So when you think about the full kind of, how does a product come to market? So how do you get a product? Where does it come from? So it really starts out with materials. Like if you're talking about a shoe, you can think about different types of rubbers and nylon and leather that gets put together into that shoe. And then it goes into a manufacturing facility and it gets built. So it gets made. And then from there, it gets shipped and delivered to a store or to your home even. So that full set of activities, from the time when raw material is created all the way through to the time when the product is delivered, is what we call supply chain. So we manage all those different processes, all those different steps to make sure that the product gets there when it needs to get there, at the right cost, at the right time, so that people can get what they want. And right now, it's really interesting. That's not happening very well. There's a lot of problems in the supply chain, and you might hear about them on the news now. Ships stuck in ports, and maybe materials are short, and also labor is short. And so, meaning like people that work in factories and drive trucks. So it's actually good, and it's good for me and bad for some of my clients right now. And so we're spending a lot of time trying to help them to work through some of those challenges that COVID triggered in the supply chain. Hopefully that answered the question. I know it's kind of a tricky field.
Yeah, that was the best description of a supply chain I have ever heard. So yeah, that was really good, Ryan. Thank you for that.
Woo-hoo.
Excellent. Yep.
Right.
Okay. Wait, now I've got one more question for you, and it's this one. So you recently moved back to Erie from Portland because your job affords you the opportunity to work from home. What are some of the greatest benefits and challenges of working from home, and what tips for success would you offer young people considering work from home opportunities in their future?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think there are big benefits and big challenges too. So, I'm really fortunate to have the opportunity to do this. And, I love Erie. I'm so happy to come back. My family, is all here. And so it's a great opportunity, I think. The benefit of it is I get more time with my family, and that my time is a little bit more flexible. My colleagues are all over the country, and in some cases all over the world. And so, that means that sometimes I might be up late or up early talking to them, whereas, if our team was all located in the same place, it would be a little bit different. I think the challenges are also, you have to be purposeful about things. So purposeful about separating your work and your life, because they can easily be melded into together. And so you really have to take that time, like Janet said, to spend time working out or getting outside or whatever, because you can easily lose track. I think also having fun, being purposeful with people, because Nike's a very personable culture, and so you have to be more purposeful about having fun with your colleagues online too. And then I think there's also a little less serendipity. Like you accidentally bump into people. It doesn't really happen when you're remote. So you just have to be a little bit more purposeful about networking and reaching out to people. The benefits are pretty awesome. I can walk out my door and have lunch with my family. That's great. In the morning, I can be here for my wife. We have a child who has special needs, and so I can be more supportive. And so that's really awesome too. So I just think that flexibility and that ability to be a family member, I can be here for my parents, I can be here for my kids, is really awesome. So that's the benefit.
Mm-hmm. Great perspective, Ryan. Thank you. I do not see any additional questions from the audience. So I'm going to pose one final question now to all of you, and then we'll wrap up. And here's my question. If you could leave students with one last piece of advice about pursuing opportunities in the business, finance, and information technology career pathway, what would that be? And Jessica, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, sorry, I had to unmute. My advice to anybody out there that is looking for any career path, I know it's very difficult to choose a career path. Banking leads to a lot of different avenues, from teller to management to lending to IT to marketing to HR. And I think the biggest thing that I would tell anybody is don't give up when you get into a company, whether it's a bank or not. When you get into a company, prove that you want to be there, prove your longevity, prove your loyalty to that company, and it really will pay off, and you're going to become so much more successful with the advice that you've gotten from your mentors, with all the expertise that you've gathered. So that's my advice. Give the company that you start with a chance, build your blocks, and I think it will lead into great success.
Thank you. Matthew, how about you?
I'm going to go back to something that I mentioned earlier, and that's really, study to get good grades and learn all that you can, but prioritize gaining that great practical experience. If I have a stack of resumes and candidates in front of me, I'd much rather hire someone who is well-rounded. They were involved in their high school and their college, their campus activities, internships, volunteering, and so on, than someone who comes to me with a 4.0 who wasn't really involved at all. And I know that may seem odd coming from someone who teaches college, but I really believe that. So study and learn in the classroom, but don't forget to gain that great hands-on experience outside of the classroom so that you're well balanced.
Thanks, Matthew. Ryan, how about you?
I would say take the initiative. Don't wait for anyone else to drive you forward. Take the initiative for yourself. Take ownership. Be proactive. And you're going to make mistakes, and you might not end up where you thought you were going to end up at the beginning, but that journey is all about taking the initiative and taking your career steps in your hands. And so that would be my advice.
Thanks, Ryan. And Janet, how about you?
So I'm going to go back to something I said that sort of ties everything that the others said together. Explore. Right now you're in high school. You're given the opportunity to really determine what you like and don't like. It doesn't mean you won't change your mind. Be flexible with yourself. There's nothing wrong with choosing something and changing your mind along the path, but it will allow you the ability to know who you are and get into a role that you really like. and can thrive in. Take advantage of Career Street. There are a lot of great tools there to help you explore while you're in school, and then take the other panelists' advice and run with that, you know, as you come out of high school and finish high school, come out of high school and go on to any post-secondary education.
Thank you. And with that, we're finished. And I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. You guys were great. You shared great perspective. This panel was so good. And we're really excited to be able to share this with the school districts and the students and their families. So really appreciate your time tonight. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks, Mary.
Bye.
Thanks, Mary. Good
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
All right.
everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Mary.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.